Once upon a time, on a long, winding road that stretched through green valleys and over gentle hills, 3 weary travellers were making their way home. The day was drawing to a close, and a cool evening breeze began to whisper through the trees. They were very hungry, for they had walked all day, and their bellies rumbled like distant thunder. As dusk began to settle, they saw the lights of a small village twinkling ahead. "Ah," said the first traveller, "perhaps here we can find a warm meal and a place to rest our heads." They knocked on the first door, then the second, and the third. But times had been hard in the village, and the villagers, though kind-hearted, were wary and kept their food hidden, claiming they had nothing to spare. "Oh, we have barely enough for ourselves," they would say, shaking their heads. The travellers sighed. They understood. But their stomachs still ached with hunger. Then the cleverest of the travellers had an idea. "Don't worry," he said with a twinkle in his eye. "We don't need your food. We shall make stone soup." The villagers, curious, peered from their windows and doors. "Stone soup?" they whispered to each other. "What in the world is stone soup?" "Indeed," declared the traveller loudly, so all could hear. "If you would just lend us a very large pot and some water beat each, of course." A kind old woman, her curiosity piqued, brought out her biggest cooking pot. The travellers found a spot in the village square, built a small fire, and filled the pot with fresh water from the well. Then, with great ceremony, the clever traveller reached into his satchel and pulled out 3 smooth, round stones. He carefully dropped them into the pot. The villagers gathered around, watching in fascination as the water began to bubble and steam. "Now," said the traveller, stirring the pot with a stick, "this will be a fine soup, but a little pinch of salt would make it even better." "Oh, I might have a little salt," said a young man, and he quickly ran home, returning with a small bag of salt, which he added to the pot. "Excellent," said the traveller. "A truly magnificent stone soup needs a touch of just a few carrots, if anyone happens to have some." A woman, remembering she had a few slightly bruised carrots, came forward. "I have these," she said, dropping them into the pot. "Wonderful," exclaimed the traveller, "and perhaps a potato or two to give it body." Soon another villager brought potatoes, and then someone else remembered a stray onion, and another a few peas. Each time, the travellers would stir the pot and declare how much better the stone soup was becoming with each addition. "This is almost perfect," said the traveller, taking a deep sniff. "Just a small piece of meat if by any chance someone had a tiny leftover scrap." An elderly man who had been watching with a smile went to his cottage and returned with a small bone with a little bit of meat still clinging to it. He dropped it into the pot. The fire crackled, the pot bubbled, and the most delicious aroma began to waft through the village square. The villagers, who had initially claimed to have nothing, found themselves bringing out all sorts of little things: a handful of barley, a sprig of parsley, even a tiny bit of butter. They were no longer thinking of what they didn't have, but what they could share. Finally, the soup was ready. The travellers carefully removed the 3 smooth stones, which were of course just stones. Bowls were brought out, and everyone, villagers and travellers alike, shared the warm, fragrant and wonderfully rich soup There was enough for everyone, and it was the best soup any of them had ever tasted. They ate, they laughed, and they told stories by the firelight, feeling warm from the inside out. The travellers had not only found a meal, but had helped the villagers remember the warmth and generosity that lay within their own community. And as the last spoonfuls were finished and the stars twinkled above, everyone felt full, content, and peaceful. Now, as you settle into your own warm bed, remember how a little bit of sharing can create so much warmth and happiness for everyone.